Hey, what's up, nerdies? Welcome to Something to Marvel About, a podcast where we discuss and dissect MCU releases. My name's English Dave, and help me figure out if I'm real or the clone is my co-host Andrew. What's up, Andrew?
What's up, clone David? David Doe.
Carbon dated me to find out that I'm actually a couple of days old. Yes. We are here to talk about X-Men 97 episode 3, but before we go into spoilers, Andrew, what are your quick spoiler-free thoughts? Go.
I love this episode. I think they built really well on last week's episode, and they also got to tell a very popular story, I think, from the comics, and in a very nice and contained way. So there's a lot to look forward to, a lot that they delved in on, and I'm really excited. Or your thoughts?
No, I agree. I think for me, this episode, with 3 episodes in, this episode reminded me of one of the things I loved about the original series was that it wasn't just this kid's cartoon where you just fight the bad guy, save the day. There were personal dramatic stakes for the characters that had long-lasting ramifications, and this kind of adds to that. It makes me realize, what is the future going to hold for these characters? What does it mean for the return of that character? Oh, snap! It just makes me just more excited. I want to know what's going to happen next. Just the same feeling we got when we used to read the comics. I thought they did a fantastic job of that. And as always, the animation and action continues to be top-notch and impressive. I love it. All right, let's go into spoiler section right now. Full of spoilers. You have been warned. Episode 3, Fire Made Flesh. When a visitor arrives at the mansion with a dangerous secret that threatens Cyclops and Jean's relationships, the team is propelled into a tragic confrontation with an immortal mad scientist. Before we get into the episode itself, something I've noticed, and I told you about this as well as soon as I noticed it, every episode so far has something different in the intro credits. What do you think that's hinting at? Did you notice it this week?
Again, I did notice it because of your prompting. First was Magneto for Professor X, then it was Roberto for Jubilee. And I think there are even more Easter eggs. I literally have to rewatch it and pause frame by frame, but I feel like they're I like the approach they're taking, right? It's like they're revamping this old show, but they're also kind of pulling in a whole suite of the comics as well into this new narrative, and I'm just excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, on top of Roberto, I love that. It's the scene with in the original intro where Jubilee runs towards the fence.
Jubilee.
This time it's Roberto. There's clips of Xavier with Lalandra. If you don't know who that is, rewatch the original series. There's clips of Rogue and Gambit doing a fake kiss. There's also a clip of X-Men's first fight with Magneto as well. So I'm interested to see what they're setting up and if that's going to continue throughout the whole episode. Throughout the whole series. But let's get into this episode. This feels like a smaller episode, but big at the same time. When I say small, I'm talking about because the focus is more on Jean and Cyclops and that family side of things. So it picks up after last week's episode. The Jean that we know that just had a baby thinks she's the real one. We find out that she is not the real one. We kind of talked about this last week and with the character of Madeline Pryor and things like that. What did you think of the moment? And we'll go through things slowly, but just to start off, what do you think of the moment where Mother Jean is telling everyone that she's the real one, but people start to not believe her, especially after Beast has done scientific tests, and Cyclops' reaction to not say anything, and then she's just like, Storm would have believed me. Oof. How did you feel in that moment?
I was here and I was like, okay, but the story is here. 1, 2, okay, so what? It was just funny, but I think it was a great tense scene. I mean, tense in going from when she was like, Scott, back me up, and he didn't, and she was like, excuse me, and then each person, and then Magneto straight up was like, oh, she the clone. Which I thought was funny too. And just to see each person just being like, and then she's like, I fought for you, I've played with you guys. Everybody's still like, I guess it's also a testament to the fact that I don't think Beast is ever sure and wrong. He never says something concretely and turns out to be false, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Beast said it, it's like, ma'am, you're the clone, probably, sorry. And then she broke the sample that Beast wanted to test, so that literally was her just basically giving up all rights to her innocence. So I thought it was a really good way to just see would I say distrust or doubt can plant seeds in your mind, and even though you're seeing two things in front of you, you literally don't know what to believe. It's very interesting, and this is before anything even happened. This is just the verbal communication about are you the real Jane?
Right. And I love Morph. Morph is always trying to just throw in some jokes in there, even when it's inappropriate. He's just like, can we call her Jean Doe?
Welcome, Jane Doe. Great name, great
I thought
name.
that was funny, but I found it interesting because I wasn't sure, even though I know the comic storyline this is based on, I wasn't sure what direction they were going to take it in. Like maybe they'd flip it and this was the real Jean, and what happens when
Yeah,
nobody believes you when you're saying I'm the real one, And I thought,
and
but I guess they wanted to move things along quickly, and in doing so,
quicker.
Sinister reveals himself to Jean and says that he did take control of her, and he has been in control of her the whole time. And I love the moment when she's kind of going through that realization, and she throws the baby monitor at the picture frame, but it looks like it hits the TV screen that we're watching, and the screen cracks. I thought that was really good. I was like, oh, nice. That kind of
That's a nice effect.
right. And once she switches, she starts to slowly attack the X-Men, horror movie style. What did you think of that moment of all the members being attacked in different ways?
Fan of horror, but I do love a good like thriller horror, right? So I thought it was great. I thought it felt like a real progression of we almost felt her frustration manifesting in all the tricks she was starting to show the others, right? And I think it was just cool to again see people dealing with it in different ways. Morph was again being a jokester, was about to go meet Wolverine in the shower, right? So stupid. And then I think Roberto and Jubilee, like they started fighting theirs, and then it's just slowly progressing until they eventually run into her in her ulterior form, which is the Goblin.
Goblin Queen. What I found interesting about that moment, though, as well, is that she's playing on the fears of the individual members, right? Their personal fears. So she knows them enough, at least from a psychic point of view, to get to them. Like Roberto sees his mum, disapproving mum. She hates the fact that he's a mutant, at least from his perspective. Gambit sees Magneto and Rogue fused together, touching, which I found not hilarious, but unintentionally hilarious, or maybe intentionally hilarious, because before the scene before, when he, Morph, and Logan come out of the danger room, and Morph's like, "Oh, look, Rogue and Magneto again." I was like, "Damn!"
Like, so
and the thing is, he just keeps pressing the button, even though Gambit clearly looks upset. He's just like, "Wow." I feel like he when you kind of succumb to your intrusive thoughts. I feel like that's Morph in general.
I agree. And just to quickly say, I would totally watch a Morph and Wolverine like buddy cop
right
sideshow, right? Like, I love their relationship so much.
I love it. We also see a quick tease of Bishop's sister Shard. He sees her. We don't know what's happened to her, but he left her behind, and she feels some kind of way, at least in his mind. And I love seeing all those moments. And I agree. I think they did a good job of making it scary horror. Like they could do it makes me look forward. Marvel is doing a horror-based animated series titled Marvel Zombies, which you got a tease of in What If. So I feel like if this is a good example, we can get some really cool, scary stuff. Yeah, I think that could be cool. While this is happening, they get thrust into a hellish arena underneath the mansion. And again, this is all psychic-based attacks. And I really liked when Jean just comes in and she's just like, enough! And just the real Jean.
Right.
What did you think of that moment?
That moment and the second moment that we'll discuss, because we're going in order. I don't know verse ahead. But Jean is the MVP. Like I love being reminded why they've been 2 live action Dark Phoenix movies, right? Or in 2 different resets. Because you can't not talk about, you're talking about X-Men, you can't not talk about Jane, right? Like everything kind of revolves honestly 80% around her. Like you can quote me or not quote me, like, with the kid, with the Dark Phoenix, with just, Professor X training her, like she's just amazing. And it was just amazing to see. She was basically weak. She was basically not even herself. And she was just like, what is all this? Like, enough, like, stop. And then passed out again. Like, like she's not even all there, right? And
right.
Again, I don't want to get ahead to the final moment at the end, but just in this particular fight, it's also nice to again just empower scaling, because you see, like we discussed, everybody else is like struggling with these, made up visions and genjutsus, really, right? And then she's just like, no, it's it's a great way to just remind us how powerful the real Jean Grey is.
Yep.
I loved it.
I like that they kind of keep it to the original series, that every time she uses her powers on high level, she just passes out. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Every time.
I was discussing with my wife. Yeah, I don't like shows, or I don't like stories where you have a really strong power and there's like no repercussion.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair.
No.
But I love that. I love where it's like, no, I can't do this. I just can't do it for like a long time.
Yeah, it is.
I'm super strong, but I'm still in a human body, right?
It still exerts energy. Speaking of exerting energy, there were cool moments that Bishop had in this fight. Two cool moments. One, I realized the first time. The other, I didn't notice the second time. The first one I realized, I'm sure you realized too, is when he has his team up with Cyclops, and he's like, Cyclops, charge me up. And Cyclops like hits him with the blast. And then he sends it out even stronger. And I think I didn't realize he can amplify the blast, because it seemed to do more damage than Cyclops would have done. I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah.
And another moment.
And they both said, "You're welcome."
Right.
Just a quick
time for some exorcism, punks. I love that with Bishop. I also like, there's a moment I didn't realize until my second viewing, where Beast is on top of one of the flying demons. He falls off and he's falling, and he shouts, "Somebody help." Bishop hears this, grabs Logan, throws Logan at Beast, and then Logan accidentally catches Beast and lands on him. I was just like, oh, wow.
Really? I went out to look for that. Yeah.
Watch it again. It's cool. That's a nice moment. Like, Logan has no idea what's happening. He's just confused. He just gets thrown. And I love that.
Yeah.
But after this fight, like you said, Fake Jean renames herself Goblin Queen, like in the comics. And this is no relation to the Green Goblin, for anyone who's not a comics person and thinks it is. When I was younger, I used to think, is this something to do with the Green Goblin? No, there's no relation at all.
Because why Goblin, though? Do you know? Sorry, I didn't even look it up, but why Goblin Queen?
There is well, in the story, there's a storyline called Inferno, and the Inferno narrative, and she even says in this episode, she's like, my Inferno, and it goes into this whole demonic thing and the demons and stuff like that. It's an okay story, and it's to do with demons and why she calls herself a Goblin Queen. I don't want to go into it too much because I don't know. I feel like, because last week we started talking about Cable and stuff like that, and then now this episode starts dealing with that. So I don't want to do spoilers. I feel like there's some people might not know.
Yeah,
I don't want to ruin it just in case we go into it later.
You're right. We know too much.
We do know too much. Back at the mansion, after everything is sorted out, I love when Rogue and Magneto come back and like, oh, what happened here? Oh no. Where have you two
Sorry, guys. But I also love that Gambit didn't even he wasn't upset at all. He was just like, that's okay. Like, I feel like there's a reason why I love Gambit as a person. I know he can be very flirty. I don't like when he's too excessive.
Right.
But I just feel like he understands the game. He wasn't like upset or anything. Like Wolverine would be, Wolverine's always like, Jane, I'm so upset. Right? But Gambit was like, yeah, whatever, girl.
Whatever.
Like, yeah, well, you do what you can.
He's going through something himself, because again, he did see them last week. He saw her walking out of his room.
Yeah.
I hope this is not leading to somewhere bad. Because again, Rogue and Magneto are spending a lot of time in the danger room. I hope it's not something bad, but they've scheduled a lot of time in the danger room. Hopefully that's not going where we think it's going. Morph's PTSD kicks in as he tells everyone about his experience with Sinister. If you remember from the previous show, he does have connections with Sinister, and he's still suffering that PTSD. We even see it in the intro credits, where he has that moment with Sinister. And I love that moment where you see his original face or his different face, with the eye bags and things like that. Just come back to him. What do you think of Magneto's reaction as well? I love Magneto. He says, Sinister has plagued us for far too long, and it's time the madman pay for his malevolent appropriations. I was like, oh shit, Magneto wants to fuck Sinister up.
Just like, and I think, well, that's how I feel. Again, if you're just joining us, I'm Team Magneto. Sorry. And Sinister is just so annoying. Like, he literally is terrible, right? Like, he's actually a bad person, right? Magneto has his reasons for doing bad things, the Sinister is actually a bad person, right? So it's just nice. I feel like Professor X is usually the pacifist, or usually like, Professor X is always trying to protect the team, right? Whereas Magneto is like, all right, we're moving. And I love how he divvied up the team real quick, right? He was like, what? I think Wolverine and somebody, a
Yeah.
Beast, right? Stay and watch Jean. Rest of us, let's go. Again, I love how his character presence has always been there, right? Since he ran the Brotherhood, since everywhere he's been, Asteroid M, like we know he's a leader. So to see him leading like our team now, I don't know, it's really nice. I think to just have a little different leader for once. No shade to Professor X, right? But I do love to see
Well, and
action.
also because Professor X is um stuck in a wheelchair. I think this is one of those few times you actually see Magneto. He's a leader that leads, literally, right? He'll go out
Yeah,
into the fight. He's like,
yeah,
let's go fight.
yeah,
He's not sending
yeah.
you out to the fight. He's leading you to the fight. You know.
Yeah, Professor X is like, go guys, I got you. It's like, it's so
I
good.
love it. Um, at Sinister's castle, Sinister is working on baby Nathan to tap into his unlimited mutant potential, and he wants to make him invulnerable. Again, for those who don't know, Sinister has an obsession with the Summers family line and believes that their genetics hold a key to the ultimate mutant. And so this has been an ongoing thing in the comics for the longest time. And so this goes with the comics in terms of dealing with baby Nathan. Did you know, fun fact, that baby Nathan, outside of who he's going to be, and I don't want to mention, we mentioned it in last week's episode. If you really want to know, go back to last week's episode. You can
Yes.
listen to that. I won't mention it again. But did you know baby Nathan was named after Sinister? Because Sinister's real name is Nathaniel. There you go, Nathaniel Essex.
If I'm honest, I found out 2 minutes before this. Like I'm not kidding. I was literally just watching a YouTube video, and it was like Sinister originally the 1800s, the original man, and then his name, and I was like, wait, what?
Well,
So yeah, let's say I did not know till now, still, because that's
well,
pretty
think
crazy.
about it, right? Who gave him the name? It was Clone Jean. She's like, we should name him
Sinister, who put
There you
the
go.
club
There
in.
you go. So
Yeah,
it's
I
all in
mean,
a plan. And I think in the comics, though, Cyclops knew that Nathaniel was Sinister's name, so he kind of didn't like the name Nathan when it was suggested, but then he kind of grew to accept it. Yeah.
yeah,
We get the second fight of the story when the X-Men arrive at the castle, and I love when Morph is just like, "Don't hurt her too much. She's not herself," and she's like, "Yes, don't hurt me. I don't know what I do," and I love that.
yeah, she's
Right.
so funny.
Which takes
And then she
right,
moves her
right.
legs. I remember.
Which takes us to another fight I want you to talk about. This is a fight between Goblin Queen and Magneto. But before your thoughts, I want to say this one line that she says. She says to him two lines. She says, "Look at you, a villain playing dress up as a hero." And she also says, "I applaud your magnetism, but my telekinetic charm. Sorry, I applaud your magnetism, but my telekinetic charm extends beyond mere metal." What do you think of that fight?
Yeah, it started off beautifully, right, with the glass. That's why I think you just said it right. It's nice to see an X-Men leader who leads. No, again, no shade, Professor X. So Magneto straight up, he's about the business. He goes straight for her, and it's a great way to see. Again, I love seeing the extent of his powers, right? I've always loved Magneto because he feels like a mutant who has taken his skill and taken it to the extreme max, right? Like electromagnetism, like everything, right? And Jean is there. It's fun to see how she almost at first, like, I guess like anime villain, she like just keeps up with you to like make you think you're doing something to her, or like not really, because again, she's right. Everything he can do, she can literally do, but like multiplied by the scale of everything, right? So it's just it's still great to see that he's such a powerful force, where even though his power is just magnetism, right? He's able to, I guess, one on one even keep up with her for so long. I think the visuals, even them showing his magnetism, like the pulsing, it was all just done very well. The colors of Goblin Queen as well, with the green fire around her, it really looked really really good. I think, and the stained glass, that's the word I'm looking for. The stained glass that kept moving around, it made such a beautiful scene. I think it's one of the better ones I've seen. And then the way she just ends it, like after everything, she's like, "Anyways, you're just a toy. Sorry."
Just like
Sorry. I was
Yeah.
just messing around.
It's
Sorry,
like, I'm not
everybody.
limited to metal like you. I can move anything, because he's trying to block everything. And then I love what he tried to use the metal of the frames to try and block the glass, but he wasn't fast enough. It, it's moments
Yep.
like that.
Yeah.
I mentioned it
Yep.
earlier in the podcast. I think moments like that remind me how much they're flexing the animation this time, because it's so fluid. It's so detailed and fluid, and
Uh-huh.
the way the camera moves and
Yeah.
things like that, you almost forget that this has to be drawn. You know, everything you see has to be drawn.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah.
really,
You're
really
right.
well done. And as she's about to take everyone out, including Cyclops, we cut to the mansion where Logan is trying to help Jean get control of herself, and he's trying to get it in at the same time. Apparently, what is up with Logan? Like, why is all these years he's still holding on? I don't know. How do you feel about the Logan, Jean, Cyclops love triangle at this point?
I've never loved it, let me not lie. But I've also liked it from the angle of we see the X-Men as having real human problems. I do like it, if that makes sense. It's a
Mhm.
story element to just tell us that like this guy, yes, he has infinite healing, but his heart his heart cannot heal, right?
Gene,
And so it's
Gene.
like it's very annoying, but I think it's just I almost saw it as like a comic element in Wolverine, right? Like even the infamous picture of him with the
Uh,
jean picture frame. It's just again, I don't like it personally, but I think as a story element, it's just kind of funny, right? Like he can be he's not afraid of anything in the in the cosmos, but his heart gets
his
him
heart.
solved, and it's it. Yeah,
But the thing is,
it's too funny.
one, I've never really been a fan of that love triangle. Though the thing I do like about it, I do like the conflict between Logan and Cyclops. I do like when they butt heads, but I prefer it more as in,
Yeah,
Logan is a hothead and Cyclops is a stickler for the
yeah,
rules. I like it in that aspect. Not, but I also do like that you never really see Cyclops fighting Logan for Jean either. He doesn't. He's almost like he doesn't care,
yep. No,
which
he
is like
knows. She's like,
he's
I
confident.
literally trust Ian. Like, like
But for me,
whatever. But you're right. He never, ever.
no, it's never a back and forth thing. He's never like. At least the movies did it. The movies always like stay away from my girl, but the animated
Yeah.
stuff never had those moments of stay away from my girl and things like that. He had more confidence than that. But what I don't like is what I never liked is the fact that we spend a lot of storylines with Logan establishing how he's the pain of him falling in love and the fact that he can live, for a long, long time. So he suffered
Yeah.
through
Okay.
many past loves in the past, with Yuriko and
Yeah.
things like that. So you'd think by now he'd learn a lesson, but, you know, but apparently not. Apparently
But
not. But what I do like is that when Real Gene confronts Goblin Queen in the astral plane, it doesn't become as you expect a typical fight, right? It becomes
yeah.
it's more about them going down memory lane, and it's about Jean
Hmm.
revealing to Goblin Queen that as much as we've shared all these memories, and as much as we don't know whose memories are whose or when we got switched. You have something that's just yours and not no one else's, and it can never be
Yeah.
taken away from you. And
Yeah.
that's Nathan. So, what did you think of that whole sequence?
I thought that fight was beautiful, the astral plane fight. Because it wasn't like you said, it wasn't really a fight so much as a battle of the psychic wills. But then, yeah, just to even just rewind a little bit, just I guess it's Jean Grey appreciation, right? Because
Mhm.
remember, leading up to it, she literally, she woke up with Logan, and remember, she's like, oh, she packed her hair. She's like, oh, I gotta go, right? I love how she's not even like waiting. She didn't even like pause for a second. She was literally all about it. And then Beast was like, oh, your body's in no condition. She was like, Beast, please, my body won't be an
Psh,
issue.
psh.
Just, I feel like it's just such a boss level move, right? She's the best. I'm sorry, Jean Grey appreciation, like I said, and even in the fight, I think the closing scenes, like Goblin Queen, like takes her to like another like astral realm, and then Jean like eats her in like the
Mhm.
astral realm, and then they break out into the baby, and the animation sequence of that was also quite top. I have to give
So
it to
good,
them, right?
so
Just
good.
yeah, I think we've seen, if you watch these kind of shows, we've seen many like astral fights over the years. I even recently watched Professor X versus the Shadow King, or whatever that dude is, right? So it's usually a lot more like aggressive, or like think of the biggest, ugliest creature you can find, right? With the most, or something like along those violent lines.
Mhm.
So I think to just see a more like heartfelt astral fight, I guess I'm going to call it,
Yeah.
was just it was lovely. And then even the another quote was, I was the Phoenix. I can't remember what it was exactly, but that sequence of
All the power.
her just claiming Phoenix. Yeah, all the power, and then Big Jean still holds her. Like, yeah, okay. It's almost like Jean is just unlimited. Jean is basically unlimited psychic power, right? So it's nice to see the two of them being like, listen, let's just agree to stop because I don't think either of us is leaving here alive, right?
Nope.
So I enjoyed that fight. It was a lot different to the standard. Like I said, just go at it to the best of your abilities, right? And more just let's agree to just be two separate people, right? That's that's fair. Okay.
And I like that, and I'm not sure what they're going to do in the future, but I did like the fact that we don't get an exact sense of when they were switched out, right? You can assume the only thing you can assume is that it happened at least 9 months ago, because Goblin Queen clone Jean got pregnant, and the other one didn't. But they both experienced the Phoenix Saga. They both remember that. They both remember a lot of things. They both remember Jean's origin story, which many people haven't seen before. The origin story of how she met Professor X. So I do like the fact that we don't really know, and I hope they don't tell us. I don't think it matters when it was switched out specifically. It's just that it was switched out. You could have many theories of when it happened. There's probably many moments in the original series where you could have said it could have happened then. It could have happened then. Sinister has kidnapped Jean before. There's many opportunities that they could have switched out. We won't know, and I hope we never know. I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I like it.
But by the end of this, even though at the end of this, Goblin Queen gets her senses back, and together her and Cyclops save their baby from Sinister. And I like the reminder, if people don't know, that one of the few things that can harm Sinister physically is Cyclops' optic blasts. I don't know if they've ever explained why, but I don't know if they've explained why. I just know that it can. Do you know if they've ever explained why? I don't remember if the why of it all.
It's so funny because the other day I thought, and I think I'm wrong, I thought Cyclops was an Omega level mutant, but I'm still coming to terms with my findings, just because my brain always knew that, in the old cartoon, whenever Cyclops blasts, you see Sinister's green inside, right? I just knew that as a fact, right? So I'm like, oh, clearly means his eyes are infinitely powerful or whatever. So I've never gotten the exact definition. I recently, for those of you who haven't watched X-Men Evolution, recently I've been rewatching that. You should watch it. It's a great show. And I'm at the part where it's him and his brother under
Havoc.
Yeah, Havoc, exactly. So I'm hoping, I'm searching for answers, basically, is my point. But that aside, it's always a great reminder when you just immediately see inside Sinister. And
Right.
I'll always enjoy that.
Yeah. But in saving their baby, they've also hurt him because the procedure didn't finish, and now the baby's infected with a techno-organic virus. We did see the techno-organic virus in the original series as well. It's a virus that, like you said, that's a tech virus that envelops your whole body. And in order for the baby to be saved, he has to be taken to the future by Bishop to his friend of the future, which those who know, it's Forge, an older Forge, because that's who Bishop works with in the future. And I love the moment where Cyclops is just like so against this, and he's just like, I will not abandon my son. And he kind of gets PTSD of how his father abandoned him for various reasons. What do you think of that goodbye moment from Cyclops and Madeline to their baby?
I'm happy you asked, because I'm sorry for Cyclops fans, because the sequence to me was, I won't be like my father, I won't abandon my son. And then he was like, I can't be a part of this, I'm sorry. And he left the room. So he didn't have a goodbye with the son. And I was just like, I mean, technically, but again, I know Cyclops has always been someone who I think we like him because he wears his heart on his sleeves. He's Mr. Honesty, right? Kind of, like the Captain America of the X-Men to me. That's how I've always seen him, right? So it was a real moment, and I understand, right? I guess I just would have been nice for him to have been there when the kid left. That's all. That's just me. From me to him, he can do with that what he will. But it was nice to see the scene with Jean Doe. That's what I'm going to call her. I'm sorry, Jean Doe. When she, if you noticed, maybe you did, when she gave the babies to Bishop and they left, the baby started crying and then the portal closed, and like that sound, it was like you might have to re-listen and just like it was just like I felt very deep in that 1 second because you could literally hear the baby crying and the sound like just disappearing into
Eh,
into the future, I guess. And I just thought that was that's why I call this episode a beautiful closure. Like we started knowing that okay, who is this woman and baby, and now baby and woman, we know who they are, and they've both gone. Right? And it was just a great roller coaster, but I think they wrapped it up all pretty well for a 30-minute runtime, to be honest.
And for those of you who know who the baby will become, because the baby does become a well-known X-Men character, as they're leaving through the portal, that character's theme music starts to play in the background.
Really? I missed that.
Yeah, hint. I mean, it's not a famous theme song, so even if you don't know, you heard it, you might not have realized it. But that character has appeared in the original series multiple times, and every time that character appeared, that music played. So they played the same music, which I thought was a nice tease, a nice nod. In this episode's epilogue, we have two epilogues in this episode. One, we have a moment with Scott and the real Jean standing awkwardly in their destroyed bedroom, just like, so
are you in?
So I got some other woman pregnant and it wasn't you. And
but I thought it was you, but I knew it wasn't you though. But I thought it was.
Awkward. I find it interesting as well because, again, those who've been watching the cartoons and the previous series as well, there was an ongoing thing where every time Jean and Scott got married, something happened that told us actually they didn't get married.
Then always everything.
So I wonder, one question I want to know is that did he marry Jean before she was cloned or after she was cloned? Are we still waiting for them to get married? I don't know. We might find out. But the other epilogue scene we cut to Aurora, and she's met by a modern day younger looking Forge who offers his help to help her. Here's a fun fact. In the comics, the storyline of Storm losing her powers was because of Forge. He's the one that made the machine that ends up having her lose her powers. But it seems in this one, he's going to help her fix it. Or maybe he was also, maybe there's a reason why he's helping her fix it. Maybe he feels guilty. Maybe he had some part in creating it against his will. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. What do you think's happening at the end with that?
That feels like a very spot on guess, to be honest. With a great connection, because I also like, again, I like the layering in this, because right as Bishop was going to the future, back to Future Forge, is right when we cut to meeting young Forge, right? So just a very cool thing. And I do think he had some hand in the technicality of the weapons used, but we'll find out later. But yeah, just excited to see my girl Aurora and seeing her not living her best life, but about to be. And again, I don't know if correct me if I'm pretty sure I'm wrong. But why did Storm ever go to Wakanda? Is this a thing? I'm not making this up. Because I feel like in the comics, yeah, this is just comic speak.
Yeah.
Because I feel like she's from that area almost. Not when I say area, I'm from Nigeria. I'm not from Africa, one place, but she's from a similar region to Wakanda, no? Or she got powers from somewhere. Well, what is it?
No. In the comics, she's from Kenya, and she spends time, I think, either in Egypt or Morocco. She spends time in the younger years as a little thief, where it's a whole thing. She meets what's that psychic you just mentioned?
The Shadow King, because that's what Professor X saves her in Egypt from the Shadow King, not her and some others.
Yes, but however, her connection to Wakanda is that in the comics, I don't know if it's still the case, but in the comics, she got married to T'Challa.
Okay, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
So they get married. I don't know what story that was. I need to find it again. I just remember. I don't know. Yeah. I liked it for random reasons. It just felt like, our couple.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, their wedding was a big deal in Marvel Comics, and even in real life, Marvel got real life wedding dress designer Vera Wang to design Storm's dress. So it's like a big deal
because she is an Omega level mutant. I mean,
yes, of course. Before we close out, we had Morph's cameos of the week. Who does he turn into? I think. Do you remember who he turns into this week? I think he turns into Ilyana Rasputin, who's those who don't know, that's Colossus' sister. He turns into two versions of her, and he also turns into Spiral, who's one of the henchmen of Mojo in the original series. If you don't know who Mojo is, you might find out. we might see Mojo in this series. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Mojo in this series in some random way. I think to be interesting.
The trajectory they're on right now, I need this to go on for let's say 10 seasons, like at least just because I know the wealth of material they have is enough for that, and again, if they're gonna give it this level of dedication and love, I can only look forward to joy.
Yeah, no, I'm really enjoying this series. Again, I love the fact that they're maintaining the animation, the action, but at the same time, it's not at taking away. They don't take away the dramatic stakes, because I think that's one of the reasons
Yeah.
that set this show apart from other shows, is that they will always maintain the dramatic stakes. You had real character moments, real, outside of all the action, and I thought that was a really good job. What are your thoughts on this show and this series? Let us know. Find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Anything else before we leave, Andrew?
Just make sure you watch this show. I'm not about to watch it again. I've been thinking about everything that I missed now. Like, I'm just a great time. What a time to be alive.
It's awesome. I love it. Well, thank you, Andrew.
And thank you, David.
My name is English Dave, and this has been a Nerdy Bunch presentation of Something to Marvel About, where we spoke about X-Men 97, Episode 3. And as always, Andrew,
Keep it nerdy.
peace.